More than 200 killed, hundreds of others injured, buildings turned into heaps of rubble. Mexico is picking up the pieces and counting the losses after the second major earthquake in 2 weeks. The pictures could have been much worse, though, had it not been for a warning system. An early warning system kicked into action. Sirens blared for at least 20 seconds before the tremors began, giving people crucial time to evacuate vulnerable buildings and flee to safety. The system was installed after the country's deadliest earthquake in 1985 left anywhere between 5,000 to 30,000 people dead. The government commissioned a seismic warning system from 12 sensors installed along the coast in 1991 to more than 100 now. The system has literally been a lifesaver. Now here's exactly how it works. When the sensors detect tremors, they send out instant signals which are then conveyed through sirens and radio alerts across the affected region. Now this gives residents time, sometimes even a minute or two, to flee to safety before the seismic waves arrive. The countries that use earthquake early warning systems effectively include Japan, Mexico, the US and China. There are more than 100 countries which still lack basic disaster warning systems. Now, these cost anywhere between $10 to $100 million, depending on the size of the country. It is a worthy investment, though, because natural disasters force 26 million people into poverty each year and cost the equivalent of $520 billion in lost consumption, according to the World Bank. Professor Vinod Menon, former member of the NDMA, joins me on the broadcast right now to talk more about that story. Professor Menon, thank you very much for speaking with us here at WION. How crucial, in your opinion, are things like early warning systems when it comes to earthquakes, especially for countries like India, where the density of population is a matter of great concern?
Actually, as far as earthquakes are concerned, we still have not been able to really successfully bring in early warning systems. So the maximum, early warning which you can actually get is when the earth starts shaking. And so that gives you literally about less than a minute or maybe maximum a couple of minutes of early warning between what is called the primary wave and the secondary wave. So you cannot actually do much in a matter of few seconds, but then the maximum that people will be able to do is to have early warning alarms which can actually start giving warning that an earth shaking is begun, so that people can evacuate into the open grounds without having the opportunity for any injury or even loss of life. But unfortunately, this particular earthquake it happened on the 32nd anniversary of the devastating earthquake which happened on 1985. But in the last 3 decades, actually, we have seen enormous, strengthening of Mexico's capabilities in terms of both preparedness, risk reduction, and response. Right. So I think there's a lot to learn from that.
Absolutely. Sir, but if I can ask you, what exactly do you think are the main reasons holding countries that are prone to earthquakes, like India, for instance, from investing in this kind of technology?
See, I think one of the most important factors which can actually help in saving lives is the strict enforcement and compliance of building codes. So you can actually see this from an earthquake which happened in Haiti in 2010, which killed more than 3 lakh people. 300,000 people lost their lives. Many buildings, including the president's palace, was damaged, and there were large casualties, large numbers. More than 3 lakh people lost their lives. But this is actually almost 8.2 on the Richter scale. And the earthquake which happened in Chile just a few days later, which was actually 8.2, on the Haiti earthquake was about 7.4 or 7.5,
right,
which killed about 300,000 people. But the Chilean earthquake, which happened just a few days later, was actually more than 8 on the magnitude, but then it actually resulted only in the loss of life of 800 people, because the enforcement and compliance to building codes in Chile is far more rigorous than what is there in many other developing countries like Haiti and Dominican Republic and so on.
Absolutely.
So I think this is very important, that we need to have strict enforcement and compliance to building codes, and regulatory regime must be very, very strict and very rigorous.
Absolutely. So, in fact, as you mentioned, it was on the anniversary of the 1985 earthquake that this happened. And Mexico, of course, has gone and upgraded its entire response to the eventuality of an earthquake. But other countries, including the United States, isn't as geared up. And especially if President Trump's policies on the environment are followed through on, there's a chance that it may have a negative impact on its early warning system there in the US as well. Do you find that kind of thing surprising in this day and age, when everyone is focused more and more on preventing casualties from natural disasters?
Yeah, in fact, actually, most countries have been able to reduce the loss of life, due to natural disasters and extreme events. But at the same time, the economic damage has been increasing. So, what we need to emphasize more is in terms of, risk reduction, understanding risk, proper risk identification, risk assessment, and also efforts to reduce the potential economic damage which are caused by disasters. So natural disasters, man-made disasters, extreme events, and climate change all need to be on the policy agenda of governments.